Hi, I'm Mackenzie. Welcome to my channel. I have wanted to do this for like the last 2 to 3 years. What better way and day to do it than on the day the TikTok is banned? I don't know about you guys, but I'm definitely going to be jumping over to YouTube and just probably binge watching a lot of my favorite creators on there now instead of doom scrolling, which in a way, maybe the doom scrolling was taking up a little bit too much of my life, but hopefully I can channel some of that into making this YouTube channel. Overall, just to document my life a lot more than I have in the past. I feel like every January 1st, I flip back through all of my pictures, all my videos for the year, and I always like to create some sort of like, this is what 2024 looked like, this is what 2023 looked like. And I just never feel like it captures everything because some moments you just forget to take pictures or you forget to take a video or whatever that is. And so I'm hopeful that this will kind of keep me consistent in that so that 5 years from now I can look back and say, wow, that's when I started my YouTube, and look at all these things that we've done since then. But one main thing that we have done since January 1st has been eating differently. And I feel like I've liked it so much, I wanted to share what that is, how we're doing it, and how we're doing it when we have a full-time job, and just trying to make that a little bit easier to navigate. And there's a lot of information out there, but let's get into what animal-based eating is. So I found animal-based eating specifically because my boyfriend was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder this past year, and it's one that creates a lot of inflammation in his body. And while there's medicines and things out there that he can take to make him better, one of the biggest things that kept coming up was just eating better and eating kind of a lower inflammation diet. And so I started researching what that looked like, and things like keto, carnivore, and animal-based showed up. The difference, I would say, and the reason that I chose animal-based eating for us is keto and carnivore are very strict. You can only have protein and fat. You can't have any carbs. And for someone like myself, I weight lift, I play golf, I go on runs, I ride horses. I'm doing all of the things. And in this life, I just feel like you've got to have some carbs in order to keep that energy sustained. And even throughout work too, I was finding when we were eating bad or just like eating on like a more restrictive diet, because we tried keto for 5 seconds, I was just so tired throughout the day. And I just think too, with us like wanting to go on trips and wanting to hang out with our friends, there are going to be moments where you're not going to be able to follow the diet to the T. And if your body isn't in that ketosis like those diets require, then you're kind of just in this like impending fluctuation, and that's not good for you, and also probably doesn't make you feel very good. So I was like, that's not going to work for us. But animal-based, you can have 30% protein, 50% fat, and 20% carbs. Wow, I should really know that better because I've been doing it since January 1st. But anyways, the carbs is what's important about that, and the carbs that come into the diet come from vegetables and fruit. You can have any fruit that you want, and as an avid sweet tooth lover, I am so grateful for that, because on just a high protein, high fat diet, it's really hard to get any sort of sweets in, and I just think the fruit is saving my life on that and making it more sustainable for us to keep too. And anyway, so since January 1st, we've kind of been on a deep dive of it. I was like, let's try it for 30 days and just see how we like it. And if we feel like it's gonna be good for us, then like, let's just keep going. Because I think a lot of times, January 1 comes around and everyone's like, I'm gonna work out every single day, I'm gonna change my diet, I'm gonna do da 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 da, and by February we've fallen off. So I think that I'm hopeful that this diet is actually really sustainable for us, and honestly I think just being 80-20 with it too, and not trying to follow it to a T, is gonna be okay. And I think that that's how you should live your life. If you're able to follow diets 100% of the time, amazing for you. We are just not those people. So if we can hit this 80-20, then I think that we are successful in this. Okay, so I've gotten most of my information from Paul Saladino, and he has this amazing website online. He also has a podcast, but his website has an animal-based guide and it has a macro calculator, which for this diet is pretty important to be able to just hop on and see what you're able to eat, what calories you should be hitting for the day, because I'm the type of person, if I have to think too much, then again, like, you're just not gonna follow it. And I feel like just having guides and videos and everything like that just makes everything so much easier to see, you know, what people are eating on this diet, how they're following it, all those things. But his guide is super helpful and it's free. So if you are interested in this after watching this video, then I highly recommend going there. I'll pop it in the links below. But anyways, you can have any protein you want. Beef, chicken, eggs, dairy, all those things. Cheese is allowed, which is dairy. But anyways, it's all allowed. And then fruit, you can have any fruit you want. Where it gets a little limited is in vegetables. And I think that's just because from my research, a lot of vegetables that we consume can actually release they have like gases or things in them that when they're released in our bellies can create like bloat or can cause our bodies to be inflamed. And so the vegetables that are allowed on his list are supposed to be the lowest inflammation. And so there's like a low, a medium, and a high toxic list. Low meaning absolutely you can eat anything on that list. Medium is more if you tolerate it. So I would try the low eating for a week or two, and then if you're really missing sweet potatoes, then slowly introduce those back in. If you notice immediately that your body or your stomach just isn't handling that, then that's not for you. If you can tolerate those, then you can have them. And then the high list is obviously just things that you should likely avoid. I will say we are trying to follow this 80-20, and so one thing that we love every single morning is our coffee with creamer. And honestly, out there, and I'm so sorry, Coffee Mate, but a lot of the creamers out there are a full-on science experiment. I mean, there is just so many crazy ingredients in them and probably just not great for you to be having every single day. So for us, that's something we were using. We were using Coffee Mate, the French vanilla, sugar-free. And you know, while if you can tolerate that, that's amazing for you. And if that's something that you can't give up, stick to it. But we've basically just tried to find a healthier alternative. And so now we're using one that has cane sugar in it. It has all the ingredients listed, real cream, cane sugar, and blah, blah, blah. On this diet, you're technically not supposed to be having sugar, but that's, again, something that we weren't willing to give up in the morning. And so that's where that 80-20 comes in. And since you're only having like a tablespoon or two of that a day in your coffee, it's not that big of a deal. And for us, that's something we like. So we're gonna keep doing that. So just think about those things in your life that are your non-negotiables, that if you're trying to follow kind of a more lifestyle eating, that if you can't give it up, you can't give it up, but just maybe try to find a better alternative for that. The other thing for me, I'm a big sweet tooth girl. Every time I eat something, I feel like I have to have something sweet. So the fruit in this diet helps it be really sustainable for myself, because I usually pack a clementine or an apple or kiwi or just something, a handful of berries. That way, you know, after I'm eating, I treat that as kind of my little dessert, and it just makes it so much more easy to stick to. And then, so the macro calculator, basically you just pop in your desired weight or your current weight and kind of your goal. So for me, I weightlift, and my goal for this year is to gain more muscle. So I popped in, I'm 135 pounds, and his macro calculator gives you a low and a high end of calories and grams that you should be hitting for that weight. And so I think off the top of my head, my low is 135 grams of protein, meaning if I come in like 10 grams higher than that, I'm totally okay with that, because I'm trying mostly in this diet to hit protein, okay? And calorie-wise, my low was like 1900 and my high was 2200. And since I'm trying to put on muscle, I want to be on the high end of that calorie intake by the end of the day. If I come in too low, then my body isn't going to be able to produce the muscle that I want to have, and that just also means I'm not eating enough. So I think that that's a really good way to kind of test yourself and ask yourself, like, what is your goal with this? Are you wanting to lose weight? Are you wanting to gain muscle? And so with that macro calculator on Paul's website, you can kind of figure that out for yourself. So I think the next most important thing is having something like a food tracker. Now, I will preface this with, if calories or losing weight or any of those things are not something that you can handle, then please don't do that. Just don't do that at all. Just try to eat protein, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, focus on that, and just don't worry about the calories. But I'm someone that, like I said, I want to know kind of what I'm putting in my body. And if it's not exactly like that macro calculator says, then I'm gonna be okay. So I use MacroFactor, the app, and you can get it through the Apple Store. I don't know if it's available for Android also, but check that out. It's about $70 a year, and I love it. I mean, there's definitely free apps out there like MyFitnessPal is one that I've used previously, but MacroFactor, I feel like I've never had an instance where I haven't been able to find something on it. And specifically, we do a lot of our shopping at Sam's, and I feel like there's always like Members Mark, blah, 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 blah on there. And it's easy because you can scan the barcode, it pulls up the serving size, and I just think that makes it so much easier. So I would highly recommend that. I think there is a free version of that you can try. And I'll kind of show on the screen next to me what the app layout looks like. But like I said, I've been using it for over a year now outside of this diet and have really loved it. And since I've been doing this diet, I just feel like it's made it really easy at the end of the day to see, am I hitting those calories? Am I hitting the protein? Blah, blah, blah. And honestly, like I said, now I kind of know, because our meals since January 1st, we try to change them up, but for the most part, you kind of eat a lot of the same stuff. And so if I grab a handful of blueberries, I know that's about 36 grams. So there are some days that I'm not tracking every single thing I eat because I know at the end of the day what kind of that equates to in terms of calories and protein intake. So just keep that in mind. The other thing I think you should absolutely have, just to make life easier, is an egg maker. This thing, I don't know who decided to invent this, but thank you. Thank you so much, because this makes a boiled egg so beautifully in like 5 minutes. And I just feel like in the morning, if you've forgotten to make breakfast or you're running out of time because you got out of bed early or late, I mean, then you just pull out your egg maker and it makes your boiled egg in 5 minutes, and then you have that to snack on for the day. So that's been helpful. And then going back to just knowing portion sizes too, because I don't know, for instance, say I pop in that we're eating a Members Mark sirloin steak. Well, most steaks have different weights to them, right? So if I want to know exactly how much is in that sirloin steak, I can put it on my food scale and see how many grams or pounds or ounces or whatever that item is. And then in MacroFactor, the app, it'll come up and it'll say 1 sirloin steak. Well, if it came in at 0.75 of what it should have been, then I can just simply type in the app 0.75. So it lowers the quantity or lowers the amount of that thing, or vice versa. If it's heavier than what it's supposed to be, then you can pop in, instead of 100 grams of berries, I had 150 grams of berries. And so I just feel like having something like that makes it a little bit easier. Again, I'm not weighing every single thing I eat just because I think that will just get a little old. So I kind of have an idea. And again, if I'm basically in that 1900 to 2200 range at the end of the day, I'm cool. And again, just making sure I'm hitting that protein. So one thing I think that's really important to talk about with this diet is that most places that you find, and Paul's website that I mentioned earlier, will talk about how all of your meat should be grass-fed, pasture-raised, or cage-free, raw dairy, all those things. And if you can do that, and then if that stuff is available to you, more power to you. Absolutely, it's healthier. But in a lot of cases, that's not the case. And for right now, it's wintertime. There's no farmers markets going on right now. We do a ton of our shopping at Sam's, and Sam's for the most part is awesome. And they will randomly have grass-fed ground beef or raw cheese, but a lot of the steaks we eat aren't grass-fed. And so I just think that it's not something or a hill that you should die on. I think if you can hit it and you're comfortable spending a little bit more money for that stuff, absolutely do that. But if it's not something that's readily available for you affordability wise, or it's just not at your store, I wouldn't recommend going out of your way. I think give the diet a try first. Make sure you like it. Make sure you're eating everything you are enjoying and that this is fitting your lifestyle. And then if you want to dive more into that stuff, more power to you. But again, I think it's just better. Overall, it's going to be better for you to choose a steak, whether it's grass-fed or not, than going to Taco Bell and eating $30 worth of Taco Bell. So again, I just think the overall message of this video is to just try to be nicer to yourself. And if you're choosing a path to be healthier, that's awesome. And don't, you know, cry over it if it's not grass-fed or pasture-raised or whatever that may be. I know that some people are gonna be like, oh, but it's gonna be okay. And I promise that that won't be the end of the world. And like I said, we shop at Sam's because it's a lot more affordable. You can buy things in bulk. And you know, when we can, we will get that stuff, but if not, no big deal. He always comes over because he wants an egg. But you're not getting any because you're on a diet. Okay, so I think the hardest thing, honestly, is having things prepped for my job and just not knowing every single morning what I need to be eating. Or honestly, like if I've forgotten to take out my ground beef or whatever the night before, then what am I gonna eat for the day, you know? And that's where you end up with like a cheat meal or something. And again, you can do it in moderation, totally fine if you're just absolutely in a pinch, haven't been able to go get groceries, whatever. But I think if you can try to, you know, like on Sunday, for instance, for me, I make sure that we have a couple things of ground beef thawed. And because ground beef is just super simple, you prep it up and then you compare that, like I said, with like an avocado or sweet potato for lunch, and it heats up really nicely and you just have that, you can grab and go. The other thing I would say is having little snacky items that you can make kind of an adult Lunchable with. And adult Lunchables are fun. You can put cheese, pepperonis, meat sticks, boiled eggs, whatever you want in those, berries and stuff. And that way in the morning, if you just have not had time to prep anything, you can just quickly grab those items and then you're out the door. And then you're not gonna be faced with, oh, do I just go get Chick-fil-A today or whatever, you know? So I always just try to think about it like setting myself up for success and treating myself nicely the next day. So a lot of the times the night before, I'll make our coffee and have that set up so in the morning I can just hit brew. I'll have the ground beef prep so in the morning I can just throw our lunches together. Just kind of making sure that you're taking those extra, you know, dotting those extra T's and I's basically on the day before. That way you're setting yourself up for success. Okay, well that concludes this first YouTube video. I'm so excited. I'm gonna try to be posting at least once a week. I might be inspired and try to post more than that, but I've got to figure out editing and I've got to figure out all those things. So if you're here and you have tips, tricks, whatever that is, thank you so much. But again, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Again, my name is Mackenzie and I'll see you next time.